Hey guys, if you want to try out an alternate operating system like Linux or FreeBSD, nowadays most of us have an old computer kicking around in the closet, or you can find something at a local thrift shop for a really good price. Now that wasn't the case in the mid to late 1990s. If you wanted to experiment with Linux back in the day, typically you would use what's called a dual boot solution. That is, you'd have two hard drives, or two partitions on one drive, where you'd install both operating systems in parallel, and you'd be able to boot into one or the other, depending on your needs. So that's exactly what I'd like to do here. We're going to take this old 386 DX40, and I'm going to install Windows 3.1 and an old copy of Slackware Linux 3.2. So we're going to start by booting into DOS, and we'll partition that hard drive. Now there's already a DOS partition on this drive. As you can see, it's 488 megs, but we're going to have to delete that. And we'll make a smaller partition that doesn't encompass the entire drive. Now, DOS 6.2.2 and Windows 3.1 really won't need a huge amount of space. So I'm going to go with a single 88 meg partition. And of course, we need to set that active. Okay, that uses about 18% of our hard drive. And we need to reboot. Okay, booting back into DOS. The installer should automatically format that drive for us. And yes, it does. By the way, that format is in real time. It went very quickly. Now this part of the install, of course, I'm going to speed this up. I'm sure you've all installed DOS at some point. Okay, installation is complete. Let's remove that floppy and reboot. And there we go, we're booting into DOS 6.2.2. So now we're going to do an installation of Windows 3.1.1. And once again, I'm going to zip through most of this install. And once the installer switches over to a graphical mode, I can use my capture card. Okay, that looks better. So let's drop in some information and fast forward through this install. Okay, no, I don't have a printer. Although that could be an interesting video. Let's see if I can find an old parallel port printer and fight with that for a while. I still have nightmares of old printers. Okay, I do have a network card in this system. It's an NE2000 compatible on IRQ5 and memory address 300. Computer name is going to be Hannah. And once again, Windows 3.1 did not come with the TCP/IP stack. I'll have to install that separately. Okay, installation of Windows is complete. Let's reboot. Okay, and we're up and running. Just a couple of quick customizations. Of course, we have to set a desktop wallpaper in here. I always kind of like that red brick background. And while we're here, we should configure networking. Let's go into network. Now the network card was detected on boot. It should be an NE2000 clone on IRQ5 and address 300 hex. But by default, Windows 3.1 did not come with the TCP/IP stack. Now I've already downloaded that separately and decompressed it under C:/TCP. Okay, once that protocol is installed, we'll make TCP/IP the default, and then we need to go in and configure some network settings. And if you've been on the channel for a while, you know I'm really not a fan of dynamic IPs. I'm going to set a static IP, 192.168.2.42, and we need a default gateway, 2.1. I'm using DNS, and in my case, my DNS is the same as my default gateway. So let's save those settings. And of course, we're going to have to reboot. Okay, so we're back up and running. Let's pull up a DOS prompt and see if I can ping Google. Yes, indeed, we've got connectivity, and DNS is fully functional. So I've gone ahead and installed Netscape 2.0. Let's load that up and double check, make sure we can actually get to the internet. Once again, we're going to use the oldnet.com, and that looks good. Okay, so we have a fully functional installation of DOS 622 and Windows 3.1, and we can connect to the internet. Now that, of course, was the easy part. In part 2 of this video, I'm going to partition the drive for Slackware Linux, do an installation, and set up dual booting between the two OSs, hopefully without clobbering either of those partitions. So if you enjoyed this one, stick around for part 2, drop a comment down below, and, as always, thanks for watching.